Monday edition of the NBA Exchange. I'm your host, Dexter Henry. A lot still going on in the world of basketball. It is draft week where a lot of NBA hopefuls will see their dreams come true. That'll be Thursday night at the Barclays Center. A lot going on. You've been like me, you've been following the mock drafts, trying to see who will go where. Nobody knows. So this episode, we're going to break it all down. We're going to talk about the sleepers. We're going to talk about the top picks. All coming up on the NBA Exchange. So it is NBA draft time. And to talk about the NBA draft, I thought nobody was better to talk about the draft than my man, Jamal Murphy, also known as the Blackatologist, host of the Up Next Pod, Bros Pod. You also see his work on Undefeated. Murph, what's up? It's draft time, man.
It's draft time. It seems like it got here real fast this year. What's going on, man?
I don't know.
Like finals, and then all of a sudden it's draft time right away.
Too quick, man. Too quick. Or we just might be getting old. I don't know. Either one. Now, this is maybe a bit of both. Yes, I would have to agree with that. Now, this is a draft that's highly anticipated. A lot of people talk about how deep the draft is. You'll hear different numbers from different people. So in your estimation, Murph, you're a guy who's really plugged into college basketball. You watch it a lot. You see all these guys. How deep is this NBA draft?
I think it's a deep draft, but it's very strong at the top. So those top six to me are very, very strong, probably stronger than we've seen in a while. And you know, like you said, it's deep throughout the first round, even into the second round. You're going to have some good players that you can get. But really, those top six, when you're talking about Cade, Cunningham, Mobley, Jalen Green, Suggs, and Kuminga, those six are very strong. So you come away with one of those guys, you should be in good shape.
All right, people should feel good if you're in that top 4 to 6 of the draft. Should be feeling pretty good. Now, let's move on to the top of the draft. Detroit, they are on the clock. They've been on the clock since the lottery. All signs from most people say they are going to take Cade Cunningham. Do you think it's a lock that they take Cade Cunningham? I know they've been knocking the tires on some other players, Jalen Green, Jalen Suggs. Do you think they take Cade Cunningham? Is that the way to go here? Is he a lock for the number one pick? Yeah,
I think he's a lock. I mean, I can't, unless they make some sort of trade, which doesn't seem likely either. I think you got to go Cade Cunningham here. I mean, he's been the best player in his class for a long time. He didn't do anything to disappoint during the college season. He's like a 5-tool player, can do it all. Though I would compare him to like a Grant Hill, maybe a little less athletic, which could be an issue once you get into the NBA in terms of his athleticism. Not to say it's he doesn't have it, but he might not be an A+ or A athlete like a Grant Hill or Trace McGrady or that kind of thing. But I mean, he can do it all. His basketball IQ is out the roof. And the funny thing about him is we don't even know, because he makes it look so easy at every level he's been at. You don't even know, you would assume there's probably gears that he can move up to, that he just hasn't been pushed to do that yet, because he's always under control. He could play, any position. He could play point guard, he could play shooting guard, play small forward. He's a great defender. I just don't think there's anybody everyone else, is kind of, there have some question marks, but he doesn't have any question marks. He's going to be, probably at least an all-star player, and multiple all-star player in the NBA.
Well, that's what Detroit needs, right? They definitely need a player like that. Okay, so that takes us to number 2. Houston has the second pick. Now, if you look at that there, Murph, they've got a lot of options, right? You talked about how strong this top 6 can be here. If you were Houston, where would you go at number 2? Who do you think is the clear-cut second best player in this draft?
I mean, it's from what it looks like and all the rumors you hear, it looks like they're going to go Jalen Green, who of course played in the G League, didn't play in college, but even in high school he was just a dynamic athlete, tremendous scorer, and he did his thing in the G League. He led the G League Ignite team in scoring, I think, with around 19 points. So he definitely did what he had to do. Flashy player, high flyer, dunker. So it looks like they're leaning his way in terms of being, a guy who can score the ball. In today's NBA, It's very guard heavy. You got to have a big time guard who can score. But if it were me, I think I'd probably lean towards Evan Mobley because he's by far the best big man in the draft. And he's so young. He still has so much untapped potential. He can move his feet. He's fluid. Great defender already. Just 19 years old, I think, maybe 20, out of USC. So much upside. Kind of reminds some people of Anthony Davis. Maybe not as polished as, at least on the offensive end, as Davis was coming out. But he's that same type of athlete. So, and he's, size matters in the NBA. I don't care what you say. And he's going to be able to play multiple positions in the NBA. So I'd probably lean towards Mobley because, new age big man. I think, it's hard to miss with that.
Okay. We're going to get back to Mobley a bit later, but let's go back to Jalen Green, right? 2 Jalens in this draft, Jalen Green, Jalen Suggs. Obviously, Suggs from Gonzaga, very decorated. A lot of people like him, including myself. I think he could be a really good player. Who's the better of that player? Because they're very interesting players. Green has more athletic upside, I guess you could say. I think you might agree with that, Murph. And Suggs might be a little bit more rounded, I guess, as a player. You probably think the shooting can get better. Who do you like in terms of the Jalens? Because some people have Jalen Suggs going as high as 2.
Yeah, I saw more of Suggs because, he played, as we all probably did, because he played a full year of college basketball. He got his team to the Final Four, had that incredible last-second shot from just before half court in the national semifinal to take UCLA out. Of course, they got blown out by Baylor the next game in the final. So we saw a lot of Suggs, and he didn't disappoint at all. He was just a classic point guard. He showed his basketball IQ. He can, he's a tough-minded player. We saw his toughness throughout the year. He can play half court. He can run the transition game. He can hit the big shot. He was clutch throughout the season whenever they played, very good teams. He always showed up. So me personally, I would lean towards Suggs just a little bit because I've seen his toughness. I've seen the intangibles, and he's a great athlete in his own right. It's not like he's lacking as far as that goes. He'll take it down the lane and bang on you too. You know what I'm saying? So Green is probably Green is a classic shooting guard, whereas Suggs is a point guard. So maybe it comes down to need. I think some people think Green has a little more upside because he's a little more athletic. He has some wow moments athletically. Taking it to the hole and dunking on people. And he also can score, and he's already shown he has a pretty good outside shooter already. So people look at him more as a pure scorer. But man, if you're asking me who I trust more as a basketball player right now, and even into the future, I'd have to say Suggs.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. What I love about him, right, it's the toughness that he's shown. Mm-hmm. We've seen this from Suggs. He looks like a guy, I hate using this term, but he looks like a winner, right? He looks like that guy that's going to be ready to make an impact at the NBA immediately. But we shall see. Go ahead.
And just to finish on Suggs, and the fact like I said, we've seen it. He already is a winner. You know what I'm saying? He already took his team to the Final Four. He was the best player on the team. Don't get it twisted. I know he had some upperclassmen who were pretty good, very good college players, but he was the guy when push came to shove that had to make a play.
Yeah, no, he absolutely was there for sure. Now I want to go back to Mobley for a second. You said you think that he is the best big in this draft. Is there any other big that can compete with him, or is he clear cut the best big, or is nobody now on his level? Because I think you even talked about getting him up into that Anthony Davis stratosphere, the comparisons that we've heard there, and the fact that he's a two-way player is very interesting. How good do you think Mobley can be, and is there anybody that could push him as the best big in this draft?
Yeah, I don't think it's not even close in terms of bigs in this draft. Definitely in terms of American bigs coming out of college basketball, there's no one even close. There are a couple overseas guys like Sengun from he's 18. He's a power forward / center. He looks very good on tape. I haven't seen him in person, obviously, but But, I don't think anybody's really coming close to what Mobley can bring, even already at this stage, what he's done already on the college level, and then his potential is just through the roof. I don't think anybody's touching that.
I don't think so. I've seen some international bigs too, like you said, that look good, but I'm not sure anybody's touching that. All right, one of the things about the draft, everybody talks about the lottery, the picks that are going to go high. We hear that all the time. But what about the sleepers? Where are some sleeper draft picks? Who are some guys you really like that are sleepers? Maybe we've seen them rise up the draft boards. I know James Bouknight, we've seen him rise up very high than where he was. Trey Murphy has risen up the draft boards. Where's the value outside the lottery, Murph? Who do you think are some sleepers that we can see in this year's draft?
Yeah, like we talked about earlier, it's a deep draft, right? So there are definitely going to be some guys who are being overlooked. And I'm really going by, because we don't know it. Draft night hasn't happened yet, right? So we don't know where these guys are actually going to be drafted in terms of calling them sleepers. But, if you look at the draft boards and the mock drafts and all that, there are some guys who I think have been a little low, on those boards that I think will be big-time sleepers. One of them, Jalen Johnson out of Duke. He had a lot of questions in terms of how he left Duke. He left Duke early. Some people say he quit on his team. But in terms of his, talent and potential, I mean, he was easily like a top 5 guy coming out of high school. He showed a lot of flashes at Duke when he did play. Duke had a poor season. You gotta wipe some of that away with the COVID, how it affected different teams. So I think Jalen Johnson's stock is a little lower than it should be now. Got Zaire Williams, same type of deal out of Stanford, about 6'9", can shoot off the dribble, just highly skilled. But Stanford had a poor season. They couldn't even play, in their homes, in their home arena all season because of COVID, and he had some injuries. So we didn't get to see him in college like we thought we would. But, there's no question in my mind that he still has enormous potential in the NBA. And then guys like Cameron Thomas out of LSU, pure scorer, Kai Jones out of Texas, tremendous athlete, just kind of scratching the surface this last year. Now has a perimeter game. So he's going to be tough. Ayu Dosunmu from Illinois. I think his stock is a little low now. I see him in the second round on some drafts. I think he's better than that. Greg Brown will be somewhat of a project, but maybe one of the best athletes in the draft. He's coming out of Texas, only played one season at Texas. And then Jeremiah Robinson Earl, who I've seen, from Villanova, who I've seen really late in the second round. But I mean, he is a guy that could, he's being really slept on. He's very solid, about 6'8", can play both forward spots, already has like a grown man's game. He has that mid-range game down. You have to expect that he can, he'll be able to improve his range and be a three-point shooter in the next year or two. So he's a guy that's really being slept on that I think is a sleeper.
Yeah, a lot of guys to look at. You can get value. We've seen this around the draft. You can get value late in the draft. You can find all-stars late in the draft. It happens. The MVP of the league this year was drafted, with the 41st pick? So right. You never know who you can find late in the draft. But in terms of impact, Murph, if there was one player that you were looking at, maybe it's Cade Cunningham for you. Is there one player you think that will come here and have the most immediate impact in terms for helping the team and on the league? Who would that guy be?
I mean, I would say Cade, but he's coming to a bad team. So I don't know. I'm pretty confident. I'm very confident that he'll produce in his rookie year and have good stats, and maybe get them a few more wins in that column. Actually, maybe a lot more, because his basketball IQ is so high that he's going to make his teammates better on both ends of the floor. But other guys like Suggs, I think, makes an immediate impact wherever he goes as a point guard. People are going to be surprised at how mature he is already. Even Jalen Green, who we talked about, he has such scoring ability. He led his team in scoring in the G League against grown men, so he's obviously prepared and ready to go. Scotty Barnes is a guy who I mentioned a strong top 6, and I only mentioned 5 guys. Scotty Barnes is right in the mix. Probably, to me, I have him 5th on my board, and he can just do it all. I think some people look at him as a long-range project. I don't. I think he comes in right away and shows what kind of skill he has. He's another do-it-all kid, but 6'7", great teammate, great work ethic. So I'm sure he comes in right away and does damage. And then we just talked about Robinson Earl. I don't care even if he gets drafted in the second round, I predict that he'll help a team next season.
Yeah, and this is what teams are looking for. They're looking for guys who are ready. Some teams can take guys with longer term, longer projects, can see what they can do. But it's going to be interesting to see the guys that can make an impact. Draft Thursday night. We will be watching for sure, Murph. I know you want to see where a lot of these kids from the college game will end up. That's my man, Jamal Murphy. Please check out his work, Undefeated. Also, check out the Bros Pod. Check out the Up Next Pod. Murph, thanks for joining me on the NBA Exchange, man.
Thanks, Dex. Always a pleasure.